Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Elon Musk podcast. This is a show where we discuss the critical crossroads that shape SpaceX, Tesla, X, The Boring Company, and Neuralink. I'm your host, Will Walden. A federal lawsuit against Elon Musk's X Corp has ended with a settlement that requires the company to pay $500 million in severance to thousands of former Twitter employees. The lawsuit, filed in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California, accused X of violating federal labor laws by refusing to provide severance pay after Musk's acquisition of Twitter back in October of 2022. The company, now is X, terminated over half of its workforce in the weeks after Musk completed his $44 billion purchase. Now, how did a deal that was supposed to redefine social media as we know it turn into a legal battle over unpaid severance and millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars to the employees? Should have just paid them in the first place, right? Now, the question surfaces from the scale and speed of Twitter's layoffs. They just cut everybody out. And the way that those exits were handled. When Musk took control of Twitter, he slashed roughly 6,000 jobs across the company within days. Many of those employees said they were promised specific severance packages under the previous ownership. Now, the lawsuit, led by former Twitter employee Courtney McMillan, alleged that Musk and his team chose to ignore those agreements and instead offered significantly reduced exit terms. McMillan served as Twitter's former head of total rewards, which included overseeing employee benefits and severance. She filed the class action lawsuit in July of 2023, stating that the company's leadership had unilaterally decided to discard the company's previous severance policy. And under the old policy, senior employees were entitled to 6 months of base pay plus equity. Most other workers were supposed to receive at least 2 months of pay, and the complaint alleged that laid off staff received only a fraction of that, and in some cases, no money whatsoever. Now, the core legal issue revolved around the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, or ERISA, a federal statute that governs employer benefit plans. The lawsuit argued that Twitter had a formal severance plan and that X Corp violated ERISA by not honoring it. The settlement ends that legal challenge without requiring Musk or his company to admit wrongdoing. Still, the $500 million payout adds to the financial weight Musk took on when he acquired the company with $13 billion in debt. Now, the case was assigned to U.S. District Judge Trina Thompson, who approved the confidential agreement to resolve the dispute. While the full terms of the settlement remain sealed, court filings confirm the $500 million figure. X Corp has not issued a public statement, of course. We asked them, they didn't say anything. Of course they didn't. And Musk, as well, hasn't responded to our comments or to our asks about what's going on. Now, the company has consistently denied any wrongdoing and tried to compel arbitration for several of the claims, but the court allowed the class action suit to proceed. This is also not the only legal fight Musk and X Corp face over layoffs. Several other lawsuits related to employment practices after the acquisition are still pending. One of those suits focuses on discrimination against women during the layoffs, while another accuses the company of failing to provide the legally required 60-day notice under the WARN Act, W-A-R-N. Legal experts say the severance dispute illustrates how companies can face long-term consequences when they abandon established employment agreements during transitions. Severance pay is governed not just by contracts, but also by federal statutes that ensure transparency and fairness. And while Musk framed the layoffs as necessary to rescue a financial struggling company, courts still expect companies to follow legal obligations during restructuring. The layoffs and the way they were handled have had lasting effects on X's corporate reputation. Former employees have spoken publicly about how the process unfolded, describing confusion, very poor communication, and just sudden firings, sudden terminations. Some workers learned they had been let go by only being locked out of their accounts overnight. You know what? This happened to me, and this is a little personal note. Due to one of the companies that I worked for, they went under. I was working for an action sports company in Oceanside, California, and they had a web e-commerce store. And I was head of e-commerce at that company. We were doing well. The e-commerce site was doing great. We had good numbers, but the boss wanted to focus on the brick and mortar store only. So what he did, we had a staff of 5 people. It's myself, and then I was the head, and there were 4 people working for me. And they were the people that were adding the products to the store, taking photos, doing all that stuff, and I was managing everybody. So lead of e-commerce at that site. And I'm not going to call them out or tell you who they were, because that's not the right thing to do. But one day we were all locked out of our accounts. Never told me. Never had an honest conversation about it. Never said, hey, I just want to, I just want to lock up the e-commerce store, go back to brick and mortar. You can still work at the brick and mortar if you want to. But, we're going to shut down the e-com because I just don't like it. He didn't want to do e-commerce at all. He never did. But he started an e-commerce store because he wanted to make a lot of money, and we were making good money for the e-commerce store. We were doing good. The numbers were good. We were up and to the right, as they say. So we were making a profit, and he just shut it down one night. Locked us all out of our accounts. I had no idea. I couldn't even email the guy. So I had to go to the store and talk to him because he didn't have a cell phone, which is funny because this is like the height, like the .com e-commerce height, before Amazon took over everything, So I had to go to the store and be like, hey, what's going on? And the boss just told me straight up, hey, we're shutting down e-commerce. I was like, well, you should have told us, like I could have looked for another job or whatever. And he said, well, it's not really my job to, see what happens to you next. I was like, wow, you're an asshole. Like, wow, George, you're a slimy. And he was a slimy. Listen, I'm going to be honest with you guys because I think you deserve it. And over the thousands of episodes I've done here, I think we've gotten to know each other pretty well. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to speak from my heart. This guy was a greasy son of a bitch. He was a piece of garbage. He treated everybody unfairly. He was mean to people. He's a mean person. So I left there confused more than anything. So there was no restructuring. It was just, he just cut off the e-commerce. I was more confused. I wasn't upset as much as I was like, well, you're a piece of shit anyway, so I don't want to work for you anymore. See you later, you stupid idiot. And then I got another job within a week, so it was not a big deal. But and I got paid more. I got paid almost double in the next place. Guy was healthily underpaying me for doing what I was doing. So luckily for me, he shut down the e-com site, but it was similar. Like you think you're going into work, things shut down. What are you supposed to do? You can't even check your email. You can't send DMs. There was no Slack at that time. There's nothing. I just shut you down. And I was doing some freelance work just recently, actually, for a company. I had a 3-month a 3-month contract with them. And I was doing some front-end work, and we were going to connect the back-end, front-end web development. We're going to connect the back-end in about 3 months. I had a 3-month time frame. Literally, the job was, and we're getting away from Elon a little bit, but I'm gonna circle back, I promise. After about 3 months, we were supposed to connect the front end to the back end. The back end wasn't done. So I was also promised, listen to this is even better. A little rug pull here. My experience is vast. I'm not, I'm senior level, high end front end web developer. Been doing this for 20 years. I know my shit, right? These people said to me before I started the contract, hey, we're going to do this contract. We're going to do 90 days. And after those 90 days, we're going to really look into, we need a new CTO, right? And you're like a perfect fit for our company. And I was sold, do this for 3 months, work your ass off, get to know the team, do crazy shit. They had me waking up at 3:00 in the morning one night to restart some stupid servers on the other side of the world because somebody who was the CTO at the time decided it was a great idea from somebody to have somebody from North America on the East Coast, wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and restart some servers that literally takes 3 minutes to do instead, and I'm a grown person. I don't need to prove myself anymore doing this shit. So I was chosen by them to do this because somebody who is also in the time zone, they didn't want to do it. And for that time zone, it was like 6 p.m. instead of 3 a.m. So the CTO at the time was like, oh, Will can do it. Put that on me. And I was like, you know what? I'm working towards a CTO thing. I got to prove myself a little bit. I got to show them I'm down, because if I'm going to have people working under me, they got to know that I'm there for them, right? That's what a good leader does. You lead by example. So I was like, hell yeah, dude, I'll go 3 o'clock in the morning. You know what they did? After 3 months, shut me out of the system. Completely shut me out. You know what? They are also pieces of shit. So I just want to let you all know that it doesn't just happen in X or Twitter, and Musk isn't the only person that does this. There were no courts involved. There's nothing involved. There was no, there's no severance for me. I was on a contract for 3 months. And then when that contract was done, and we had great discussions about what's next, what are your next steps? Let's get you set up, everything. I was on my path to being the CTO of this company, and they were using me, come to find out, to get this the front end of this very complicated system built out in 3 months as fast as possible. This is like a 4-man job. I did it by myself. Not bragging or any shit like that, but I'm just saying I did it because there was the opportunity. I got along with everybody there, by the way. Everybody was in. The CEO of the company at the time was like, dude, we got you. You're doing this. We got you set up, and you're going to be the CTO like the whole time. Never even talked to me about anything I was doing wrong, or that they didn't want me to be that, want me to be CTO or anything like that. Nothing, no communication. So I can see from these people's perspectives, they got the rug pulled out from underneath them. They got screwed over. They had a contract in place with Twitter. Elon Musk yoinked that contract away from them, and that was it. They couldn't do anything. There's no recourse until they did this lawsuit. The way they handled these lawsuits was horrible. $500 million settlement also arrives as X struggles with advertising and platform stability right now. They're still struggling with advertising ever since Musk took over. The company faced reduced ad sales since day one of Musk. There's not much content. There's no content moderation anymore. And there's a sharp decline in its valuation. I mean, Grok's on it now, so maybe Grok will moderate things, but haven't seen it happen. Musk bought Twitter for $44 billion. And late 2023, Fidelity estimated its value $12 billion. So it lost about $30 billion in value. So see what, you got to treat people well. That's all. You could have just given these people the money, $500 million. Like, of course he's trying to save money and trying to save free speech or whatever you believe. He's trying to reshape X into an everything app that goes way beyond social media. Grok is part of it. It wants to take payments, he wants to do everything that Facebook does, but different, with a different name. Facebook does payments. Facebook does calling. You can hail a ride on Uber through Facebook if you get the right app or whatever. Or Meta, sorry. So it's basically the WhatsApp / everything app / everything Facebook does anyway. That's what Musk is trying to do with X. And there's financial burdens that may hinder efforts to rebuild morale, of course. In this lawsuit, like, you see how he treats people, and they won. These people won, and they defeated Elon Musk. And a mass layoff is very difficult, but you can't break the law when you do it. These are legal agreements that these people signed with Twitter back when it was Twitter. You can't break those legal agreements to execute these layoffs, have lasting consequences, plus hundreds of millions of dollars now. You're paying that money now. So payment distribution will begin following final judicial approval, with a total settlement split among eligible ex-employees based on tenure and salary. And while it remains unclear exactly how much each former employee will receive, the average payout is expected to fall between a few thousand to tens of thousands of dollars, depending on their roles and seniority. Musk has frequently criticized the U.S. labor laws as well, spoken against what he describes as over-regulation. That's why he left California. But in this case, federal employment law imposed a cost that cannot be ignored. The settlement closes one major chapter in the legal fallout of Musk's Twitter acquisition, but many unresolved disputes remain in the court system. Hey, thank you so much for listening today. I really do appreciate your support. If you could take a second and hit the subscribe or the follow button on whatever podcast platform that you're listening on right now, I'd greatly appreciate it. It helps out the show tremendously, and you'll never miss an episode. And each episode is about 10 minutes or less to get you caught up quickly. And please, if you want to support the show even more, go to patreon.com/stage0. And please take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you tomorrow.